people, and it's gone on far too long.
First of all, just a side note, you should never give the mic first to a native. You have colored people time, we have Navajo time, native time. You ain't seen nothing yet. Before we start, I want to just ask if there's anyone in the room here who is from the Piscataway or the Haudenosaunee tribes. Okay? I ask because it's the Piscataway who were ethnically cleansed from this land. They were the ones who lived here. They were the ones who hunted and fished here. They lived along the Potomac. And they, along with the Haudenosaunee, were the ones who were ethnically removed from this area so that the nation's capital could be built and so that white settlement could move in. And so I would just like everyone to give a round of applause for the Piscataway and the Haudenosaunee because of it's important that we acknowledge the people who have stewarded this land. It's important that we acknowledge that these lands were not discovered. In my presentation here, which I will do my best to keep to 3 minutes, I want to help you understand what it feels like from a systemic racism standpoint to be Native in the United States, especially around the celebration of holidays. We'll start simple, Columbus Day. Okay? It's quite obvious to anyone that you cannot discover lands already inhabited. If you don't believe me, leave your cell phones, your car keys, your wallets out. I'll come by and discover them for you. Clearly, this is not discovery. This is stealing. This is colonizing. This is conquering. And yet we have a statue just a few miles away from here honoring Columbus as the discoverer of America. This is a problem for Native peoples. Second, another holiday. Well, you'll remember about 3 years ago, we had a dialogue about the appropriateness of the Confederate flag. It was actually taken off of a Capitol building by an activist. This was in the spring of 2015. And I watched this with great interest because this was a good conversation. We had to have this. We needed to discuss this. But then I was really intrigued because just a few weeks after this dialogue died down, everyone took the day off, they bought their hot dogs, they bought their fireworks, and they went out to celebrate another piece of systemic racism within our country, which is the Declaration of Independence. You may not know this, but 30 lines after the sentence, all men are created equal, the Declaration of Independence refers to natives as merciless Indian savages. Making it very clear, the only reason our founding fathers used this inclusive term, all men, is because they had a very narrow definition of who was actually human. Now that brings us to today, President's Day, Abraham Lincoln's birthday. I'm going to say some history many of you may know. I know I will present some that none of you have never heard of before. In 1858, President Lincoln, in his first debate with Stephen Douglas, he said there was a physical difference between the white and the black man, which will never allow them to be on equal footing. I have no intention to make voters or jurors of Negroes, nor to allow them to vote, nor to allow them to intermarry with us. And as long as there must be a position of superior and inferior, I believe the race to which I belong will always be the superior race. President Lincoln said the same thing almost verbatim in the fourth debate with Stephen Douglas. In his inauguration, he said, I have no intention to free the slaves, for slavery already exists. And if you want to know how I feel about the races and black people, go back and read what I've said before. And then he quoted himself from the first debate. In 1862, when Horace Greeley called for the immediate emancipation of the slaves, Abraham Lincoln said, my primary objective in this struggle is not to save or destroy slavery. It is to preserve the Union. If I could save the Union without freeing a single slave, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. If I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that. That quote is hanging at the Lincoln Memorial stating for anyone who comes in, according to Abraham Lincoln, black lives don't matter. Now you all know that when he emancipated the slaves, he didn't free all of them. Now what you may not know is that Abraham Lincoln used the pretext of the Civil War to further the campaigns against Indian people. December 26th of 1862, President Abraham Lincoln ordered the largest mass execution in the history of our nation with the hanging of the Dakota 38. In 1864, a U.S. Army under the command of Commander-in-Chief Abraham Lincoln came across Cheyenne and Arapaho men, women, and children, 200 of them encamped over a hillside in Colorado. They were waving a white flag of surrender and an American flag, and they ordered all of them slaughtered. It was later reported that the soldiers paraded their genitalia down the streets of Denver. In 1861, they stepped up their campaigns against the Navajo and the Pueblo in New Mexico. In August of 1863, a general of the U.S. Army gave this order to one of the soldiers. He said, "Henceforth, every Navajo male is to be killed or taken prisoner on sight. Say to them, go to the Bosque Redondo, or we will pursue you and destroy you. We will not make peace with you or any other terms. This war shall be pursued until you cease to exist or move. There can be no talk on the subject." And then they rounded up over 8,000 Navajo men, women, and children and marched us down to Bosque Redondo in what is known as the Long Walk. I want to say this. As a Navajo man, I find many of the holidays celebrated by the United States of America lamentable. 4th of July, Columbus Day, Thanksgiving. But President's Day, the fact that as a nation we celebrate Abraham Lincoln's birthday and have whitewashed the exploits of a racist, genocidal, ethnic cleansing president like Abraham Lincoln is ethically, politically, socially, and morally reprehensible. Thank you very much.
Somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we